So here we go with the Senate confirmations of Donald Trump's cabinet picks. And Chuck Schumer has already come up and he is going to put the screws on them, told that the people in his caucus, he's rallied his caucus and said, this is the time. This is the time for us to really tighten up on Trump's cabinet picks and see exactly what they're going to do to help Donald Trump further his agenda. Because all these people are unqualified for their positions, which is shocking to me. Absolutely shocking that he has the audacity to come out and say that after looking at Joe Biden's horrendous cabinet picks during his administration. And I do mean horrendous. These have been some of the worst people in the Joe Biden administration that I have ever seen in my lifetime in a cabinet. So he tells his colleagues, Chuck Schumer, that they're really going to grill them, tighten up on them, really hammer them. And their goal, of course, is to get them not confirmed, which is absolutely amazing to me because when Donald Trump won the election, the liberals went through their 5 stages of grief. And, stage 5, if you know what I'm talking about, stage 5 is the stage of acceptance. They finally accepted the fact that they lost terribly, terribly November 5th. I mean, they didn't lose. They lost everything November 5th. And amazingly, still have not figured out why they lost. But once they got to their acceptance part of it, stage 5, then they come out and say, hey, you know what? It's time for some bipartisan. We think we can work with little Donnie Trump. We think we can work with Donald Trump and help get the country back on track. And that lasted about 2 weeks. And now all of a sudden they are right back to where they were. Stop Donald Trump at all costs. Stop Donald Trump. And thank God Donald Trump kept the Congress, because had he not, it would just be a repeat of 2016. Impeachment after impeachment after impeachment after impeachment, because the liberals hate it when they don't have power. They simply cannot function when they do not have power. But the thing that amazes me, like I said, is they're sitting here saying that Donald Trump's picks are, they're not qualified for the job. They simply can't do the job. And I'm seeing this everywhere. When I go to all the other news organizations, they're saying the same thing. When I go to the political forums, they're saying the same things. These people are so unqualified, it's not funny. And I find that absolutely amazing. So let's go ahead. And since these people are so unqualified, let's just go ahead and take a look at, Joey Biden's, Joey, the big guy, Joey, Mr. 10%. Let's look at some of his fantastic picks that he put in his cabinet. And let's go ahead and start with Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen. Now, this lady was an absolute clown and had no idea what she was doing. The world, especially the United States, was getting crushed by Joe Biden's inflation, who they love to blame on Donald Trump. And let's be honest. If the inflation was Donald Trump's fault, why did it happen 2.5 years into Joe Biden's presidency? Was it a slow rolling inflation? Is that what it was? Was it transitory inflation that they called it? That just happened to take 2.5 years to finally get here? Yeah, it had nothing to do with Donald Trump. It literally had everything to do with Joe Biden. And what did he do? His first day in office, he passed 97 executive orders. And I can't remember the exact number, but there were quite a few of them that instantly dealt with energy. Because if you attack energy, you attack the economy. And what happens? Every time, go back in history and look, every time a president has tried to curtail America's energy production, inflation did this. Now, I don't want to hear, well, Joe Biden exported more oil than Donald Trump. I don't want to hear that. That has nothing to do with anything. Yeah, we exported it because it's not good oil. We have to export it. A lot of what we drill here in America is called sour oil. We cannot refine it. We do not have the EPA, and the government has locked down refineries so much, we have to send that oil out to be refined. That's why we export so much. But you can't tell an idiot liberal that. They think that we're just producing so much oil, we got so much, we're just sending it out across the world. We're sharing it with everybody. That's absolutely not true. We simply cannot refine it. Learn something, read something, then comment. Because oil comes out in 2 different grades, basically. You have sour oil and sweet oil. The sweet oil is what we can refine here. We can't refine sour oil because it's a dirty job. It is a dirty job. And most of what we drill is sour oil. So we export it out. We have to. We have no choice. We can't do anything with it. But Joe Biden attacks energy. Inflation skyrockets. What does Janet Yellen do besides be worthless? they decide they're going to pass the Inflation Reduction Act, which literally had nothing to do with reducing inflation. It was Joe Biden's green agenda, and Kamala drinks on the House Harris. And AOC used to be a bartender. That is their job, the squad. Their green energy, their green agenda. That's literally what the Inflation Reduction Act was. Literally. And it's she's done a horrible job. And I'm going to read this section here. This is from bada bing, bada bing, the Washington Post. And I thought this was pretty entertaining. Because I look at all the news. Every day I go to all the different news outlets. And it's just amazing what I see. And I do it more for myself because I like to see the difference, like what MSNBC is saying as opposed to, everybody else, or Fox News, or even CNN now, that Donald Trump has, regained his rightful place in the Oval Office. But let me read this here for you. When it comes to inflation and competence, look no further than Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen. In her powerful position, Ms. Yellen is supposed to advocate sound economic policies that help the American people. But when millions of hardworking families were struggling with out-of-control inflation caused by Joe Biden, not seen in 40 years under Joe Biden's watch, Ms. Yellen helped pave the way for the passage of the Inflation Reduction Act, which had nothing to do with reducing inflation. Even Paul Krugman at the New York Times admits the strategically misleading named Inflation Reduction Act is mainly a climate bill. And that's exactly what it was. So instead of helping people with inflation, they push their agenda. That's what liberals do, because liberals don't care. They simply do not care. So when it was time to fight for lower cost, Ms. Yellen instead chose to hoodwink Americans by pushing a far-left climate change bill that stole hundreds of billions of dollars from taxpayers who thought they were getting help with the crushing burden of inflation when they really needed it. But Donald Trump's picks are incompetent. Janet Yellen, instead of actually doing something to reduce inflation, they push a climate bill and took billions of dollars away from the taxpayers. But she's a good choice. She's a good pick. So let's move on. Let's look at another great one. And this is Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin. Completely incompetent. Completely incompetent. This is the clown. All right. When a Chinese spy balloon was cruising over the United States and just happened to stop, over a couple of military bases to collect some information, no big deal. It doesn't matter. It's harmless. Go on with your day. This is the guy that let that balloon completely traverse the entirety of the United States from west to east, and then finally decides to shoot it down after the mission had been completed. Meanwhile, everybody in the world saying, hey, Chinese spy balloon, shoot it down, shoot it down, shoot it down. No. Not under Joe Biden's administration and not Lloyd Austin. Let's let it go and collect all of its information, then we'll shoot it down, because they're all owned by the Chinese. We know this. How many of these liberal nutbags in Congress and in Senate have been caught sleeping with Chinese spies or hiring Chinese spies or dating Chinese spies? I mean, come on. Joe Biden's son is making millions off China. Joe Biden's making millions off of China. What for? Why? Why were they making millions of dollars from China? Absolutely amazing. So when the Chinese launch a balloon to collect intel on the United States, they just let it waft on by. Defense Secretary Austin, great pick, fantastic. But Donald Trump's picks are incompetent. Even though had Donald Trump's pick been in this position, that balloon would have been shot down over the Pacific Ocean. It would never have made it onto America. It'd have been gone. So moving on to another one of Joe Biden's great picks that they put in. This is one of my favorites. Little Petey Buttigieg. Budabada. Little Petey Buttigieg. So he's the Secretary of Transportation, which is absolutely amazing to me. I've never seen this many train derailments in my life that happened under the Biden administration under Little Petey. It seemed like every other week there was another train being derailed. But the thing that really sticks out of my mind is the one that happened in East Palestine when the train derailed and caused severe damage over there. And let's make no bones about it. Palestine is red. They vote red. They vote Republican. And nobody went from Joe Biden's administration. You know what? It's okay. They're Republicans. We're better off without them. Let them die. Took 3 weeks for little Petey. 3 weeks for little Petey to get over there to see what was actually going on and the devastation that had occurred in Palestine. 3 weeks. Joe Biden never made it. Joe Biden. And from now on, just so you all know, that's one word with 3 syllables. Joe Biden. Yeah, it's not Joe Biden. It's Joe Biden. Joe Biden never made it. The big guy, Mr. 10%. Never made it over. I'm going over there. I'm going to see what's going on over there in Palestine. Yeah, I never went. Took little Petey 3 weeks to get over there. 3 weeks. Because little Petey was so busy catering to his left woke agenda-ness. He was afraid it would hurt his political aspirations had he gone over there. So he was trying every way in the world to not go over there. Kind of like Kamala Harris on the southern border. Remember Kamala Harris? I can't remember, was it 60 Minutes, I guess, maybe? Have you been to the southern border? No. I haven't been to Europe either. She was in Europe 3 weeks prior to that interview. And they wonder why she didn't win the presidency. Oh my God, she's an idiot. Complete idiot. The borders are. Never made it to the border. Little Petey, Secretary of Transportation, took him 3 weeks to get to Palestine. 3 weeks after that devastating train derailment. And let's not forget the fact that little Pete had zero experience in transportation. Absolutely none. Zero. I don't even know if the guy knows how to drive a car. And yet, amazingly, he became the transportation secretary. Could it have been that he was, a white gay male? Could he have been a DEI hire? I mean, he had no experience. Not at all. He didn't come out of the transportation sector. So how did he get the job? Well, he got the job because he was woke, as most people in Biden's administration got the job. Because what was that guy's name? Sam, whatever his name was? The bald-headed goofball that was wearing women's clothes and stealing luggage out of the airport? The nuclear whatever, I can't remember that guy's position. Try to block him out of my mind. I got pictures of him wearing the dress with the red lipstick and his bald head. Good pick, Joe Biden. But Trump's picks are absolutely unqualified. Biden's picks were all fantastic. So we got little Petey Buttigieg. Horrible pick. Had no business being in that position whatsoever. But now let's hit the piece de resistance. The mother load. The mothership. The big guy. Not the big guy. Big guy number 2, I guess. Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. Yeah, talk about unqualified for your job. Oh my God. This guy is nothing but a yes man and a moron. An absolute moron. His incompetence will be studied for years to come on how not to handle a border problem. If you want to learn how to destroy a border in a country, you study Alejandro Mayorkas. That's who you study. How many times did this guy sit in front of Congress, sit in front of Senate and say the border is closed? There is not a problem at the border. Meanwhile, how many millions come across the border? How many gotaways? We have no idea. We have no idea how many true illegals have come across the border. Millions have poured across. So many have poured across that we now, for the first time in American history, we have a crime stat called illegal immigrant crime stat. For the first time in the history of America. Because there's so much crime. Because all these other corrupt countries are dumping their criminals. They're emptying their jails out and sending them here. Look at TDA. Is it TDA? Isn't that what they're called? TDA? Taking over apartment complexes. And then I can't remember who the newscaster was. I cannot remember. But she's talking to J.D. Vance, and she's like, well, they weren't taking over apartment complexes. They just took over one apartment complex. And he goes, do you hear what you're saying? The simple fact that they took over one apartment complex is one too many. But that's liberal mind. That's liberal think. That's the way they work. Well, They just took over one apartment complex with 458 units in it. Had they taken over two, it'd have been a problem. But they just took over one. So it's not that big of an issue. And now these clowns are running rampant. Hell, they're in my state, Tennessee. Now they're popping up in the three major cities here, Memphis, Nashville, and Knoxville. Luckily, we have open carry here in Tennessee, so chances are we can probably take care of some of this ourselves. Because one thing that's really cool about it is since they put open carry in 2023, they put constitutional carry in the state of Tennessee. Now, I do not know about the other cities because I do not live in the other cities. But in my city of Knoxville, guess what happened in 2024? Crime went down 30%. Go figure. Go figure. Arm the populace. Arm the good guys. Crime goes down. Who knew that would happen? Come on. And tell you what, let's disarm the populace, like, I don't know, Chicago, and watch crime skyrocket. Murder rate, record murder rate over the last 4 years in Chicago with some of the strictest gun laws in the country. Go figure. But back to Alejandro Mayorkas. This guy has been an absolute turd for America and has done the worst job on the southern border. All right? Record immigrants, record people here in America dying from fentanyl pouring across the border. It's like Niagara Falls of fentanyl coming across the border. But you know what? Alejandro's okay. It's all good, babe. It's all good. Especially if it's just killing Republicans. Then we're okay. Let's not forget, though, the illegals. Raping women, killing families, shooting people, stabbing people, beating cops, robbing stores, robbing neighborhoods. But it's all good. Because according to Alejandro Mayorkas, there's no illegals. The southern border is secure. Secure. Now, had this happened under Trump's administration, that person would have been fired 3.5 years ago. Not under Joe Biden's DEI administration. No. The two things we look for: somebody who will say yes, keep their eyes closed and their mouth shut. We don't want any blowback on anything from the people we choose. Or somebody who's completely unqualified for the job, but we're going to DEI them into that position. And that's exactly what happened under the Biden administration. So while Chuck Schumer says that that Donald Trump's picks are completely unqualified, I just gave you 4 of the worst picks in American history for cabinet members and an administration. 4 of the worst. And they have the audacity to say that Donald Trump's picks are unqualified. It doesn't matter who Donald Trump picked for these jobs. They would be better than the people that currently have them under Joe Biden. He could pick a 10th grader out of high school who could do a better job than Alejandro Mayorkas. Anybody could do a better. Hey, okay, I'm sitting here looking at tens of thousands of illegals pouring over. Close it. Boom, job done. Finished. A 10th grader could do that. But not Joe Biden's administration. And yet Chuck Schumer has the audacity, like I said, to say that Donald Trump's picks are unqualified. So this is going to be kind of interesting because these are getting ready to get fired up, the Senate hearings on what's going to happen here. My personal opinion is, I would kind of like to seen Senate kind of get shut down and Donald Trump just kind of put everybody in position to save us the headache and the nightmare that's about to ensue, because liberals are going to be liberals. And like I said, they made it through the fifth stage of acceptance where they went to, we lost everything. Took us a while to get there, but we accept it now. Oh my God, we lost everything. Time for some bipartisanship. It lasted about 2 weeks. Then they went right back to the liberal playbook, and they still cannot figure out why they lost the election. That is absolutely amazing to me.